Hey everyone, it's Chris Loud. In this video, I'll show you one way to capture nature's energy with intuitive abstract paintings focused on building expressive layers, painting loosely, and letting natural movements inspire the marks. I'll be creating 4 semi-abstract 5 by 7 inch paintings in this demo based on this prompt. You have 20 minutes to paint, and because these are smaller, I'm doing 2 in 20 minutes. For colors, it's artist choice of 3 to 5 colors plus black and white. And as an optional twist, if you want, try using other mark making items, pens, charcoal, pastels, markers, etc. And the goal is to paint intuitively with nature in mind. Suggest stems, leaves, or windblown shapes without necessarily defining them. Use layering and mark making to evoke a sense of energy and movement. And if you'd like more ideas to keep your creativity flowing, check out the link in the description for the 50 abstract warm-up painting prompts download. I think it's a great way to loosen up and spark fresh inspiration in your art practice. So for this intuitive abstract painting exercise, I'm using burnt sienna, burnt umber, which I'm laying down right now as my initial background. I'm also using brilliant yellow-green, Naples yellow, and on a couple of pieces, a touch of Prussian blue. These first 2 pieces, I'll use a little bit of Prussian blue on those, along with Mars black and titanium white. So for mark making, I chose to do the kind of extra twist in this prompt. I'll bring in a black Sharpie pen and Artex acrylic paint markers for added contrast, movement, and some splashes of color. And I'm doing this on 154 pound or 250 GSM mixed media paper, which handles thin layering beautifully. I really like this paper a lot. If you're using thicker layers, then it will buckle a little bit, and you might see in this it'll buckle a little, just a little bit, but when it dries it usually straightens out pretty flat, and then it also presses very well. So if you still have a little bit of buckling, you can press it between some books or under some books and it'll work out well. I'm spraying a little bit of water droplets on here, and you can see when I pull this paper towel up that those show up nicely on this layer of paint here, which just adds a little bit of character to this layer here. So one of the biggest benefits, I think, of painting intuitively with nature in mind is that it reconnects us with natural rhythm and flow. Nature is never really perfect. It's balanced through movement, asymmetry, and variation. And when we paint this way, we echo that rhythm in our own gestures and brushstrokes. So I'm just using a stick to put down some Mars black paint, and you can see I'm smearing down some of that Prussian blue to just give a little bit more variation in the color there. It also helps us break the habit of overthinking and perfectionism. Instead of worrying about composition or outcome, we respond to color and shape and emotion. It becomes less about control and more about kind of discovery. So I'm using this little thin chisel color shaper and getting a little bit of that Naples yellow and titanium white, just kind of a mix of it. I've just picked up a little bit of both of those paints and just putting them down. And you can already see that I already have some things that look like flowers. Just kind of giving the essence of those flowers at this point. And painting intuitively, it strengthens our observation and interpretation skills. We start noticing how light shifts through branches and how colors layer in leaves, or how roots twist underground, and we express that through line and texture instead of literal detail. Now, obviously, in these paintings, I have flowers in my mind. I wasn't looking at an image or anything. Just that's, when I started putting down these marks, that's kind of what that came to mind. And I've done these exercises before, and they work very well with flowers. But I've also done them with trees and actually rocks and other things as well. But I'm not thinking of any specific flowers. Just that's kind of where I went with this prompt. But this can be done with really anything in nature. And here I'm bringing in those Artex acrylic markers, and I'm just putting on the first one some orange and yellow down, and in the second one I'm going to start using a little bit of violet and some different markers, different colors of red from these markers. And this, this kind of process can naturally help build stronger compositions too. Nature already knows how to balance movement and space. And, by studying it loosely, we kind of internalize that same visual balance in our own abstract work. And again, this is more semi-abstract. You're going to be able to look at this and think those are flowers, but they're not clearly photo representational or photorealist, I should say. And that doesn't mean all of these have to be amazing compositions, and they're not. But it does help us kind of work through composition, and we look at nature and start noticing different compositions in nature, and those stick in our mind. So when we're painting intuitively, we'll see that show up. So I'll show you the finished these finished paintings at the end and some close-ups, and we'll jump into the second set of these here in just a minute. But mostly these exercises in painting nature like this, it brings us into a state of kind of flow and presence. We're not planning, we're responding. It's meditative, it's refreshing, and often where our most authentic ideas emerge. And working small and timed encourages freedom. It removes the pressure of making a finished piece and replaces it with exploration. We start to notice color relationships and new textures and compositions emerging naturally. And these small abstract studies, they can be wonderful in their own right. They can spark ideas for larger pieces or become, meaningful, original art gifts when you place them in a mat or a frame, or you mount them on a wood panel. And honestly, a couple of these, I think that's exactly what I'm going to do with them. The rest of them I'll probably go ahead and just put on Etsy and see if anybody wants to pick those up. But as we paint, we build layers and laying down color and then responding to it with line and mark and paint. We're not trying to plan every move. We're letting intuition lead. And sometimes, a bold shape will take over the composition, and sometimes a soft layer will shift the mood. We might use pen or marker to create contrast or texture that breaks the surface tension. And that balance between control and freedom is, it's really kind of where the magic happens, I think. And, each painting can evolve differently, and that's what keeps the process exciting. It's about finding energy in the unexpected. So the first three, I used a very similar color scheme with the layering. And this one, I'm going to kind of go in reverse. I'm going to put the lighter colors down first, that brilliant yellow-green with a little bit of that burnt sienna and some titanium white. And I'm going to dry that, and then I'm going to pull some of those darker colors, those and darker and warmer colors, the burnt umber and the burnt sienna, over top of that, and work off that as my top layer. So get a very different look. And when we paint intuitively and let nature guide us, we rediscover why we paint in the first place. You know, to express, to explore, and to stay curious. And you know, not just about art, but about, you know, the world around us. Nature, you know, it teaches us that things grow and shift and balance themselves without strict rules. And by trusting that same natural process in our painting, we strengthen not only our technical skills, but also our creative confidence. So you can see that second piece is, you know, has a very different look to it, and I'll come in with some of these markers and add some color. And on this one, I'm using a marker, kind of a wider marker, one of those, the wide jumbo Artex markers, and helping that work, I guess, if maybe petals of a flower or something, just kind of giving a more rough look with the white. So if we've been feeling stuck or overly cautious with our art, this is a great reminder. You know, set a timer, choose a few colors, and capture nature's energy on the page. You know, you don't have to go for a walk. Just look out in your backyard. You'll be amazed at how much your intuition already knows. And like I said, at the end of this video, we'll look at all 4 finished paintings together, and plus a few more, actually a couple more, that were done in the same way, and they look pretty similar to the first 2. And hopefully they inspire you to explore your own version of this prompt and bring that sense of organic movement and expressive freedom into your work. Because, you know, painting intuitively with nature in mind isn't just about making art. It's about tuning back into the rhythm and the balance and the beauty of imperfection. So I'm using that little black Sharpie pen to just make some squiggle marks and to make some rough lines there for a little added energy and movement. So here's some close-ups of one of the first pieces, and I'll show you the final piece there. So if you like this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more like this, you know, feel free to subscribe. And as always, if you have any feedback or questions, I'd love for you to leave me a comment. And so this is the second there, and I'll show you some close-ups of that last piece and the final piece on that. And then I'll also show you the piece that was next to it. And here are a couple of pieces that I did before that. As I said, they're very similar to the other ones. So thanks for watching, and keep on painting.